What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. Welcome to the stream. We're going to go live. I wanted to showcase what's happening in the House of Commons right now. If you look at what's happening with Justin Trudeau and the whole debacle of the bad guys from WW2 being brought in and being showcased for everyone to take a look at. We're sorry, I'm trying to get things set up because this was an on-the-fly stream, and I want to make sure that we get everything running properly for everyone to know that we're live, to know what's going on. So please make sure you share this out, share out to people that we are live. I'm going to be posting to Twitter right now where we're at, and then we're going to get started as we go live into the House and see all the excuses coming out of Parliament. Sorry, excuse me as we get started here again, folks. Sorry for the slow introduction. I wanted to go live as quickly as possible. My sidekick, Steve, joining me in the studio. I was watching CPAC earlier. Sorry, guys. Again, I'm going to get the dialogue going here. I was watching CPAC earlier, and I saw the excuses coming out of MPs' mouths that, oh, you apologized, Mr. Speaker. You're taking responsibility. I think that's good. I think that's enough. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I thought, let's go live. We'll watch it together. Let me just get this tweet out. Trudeau loves Nazis. Hashtag Trudeau must go. Steve, of course, providing a little bit of comic relief as we get this broadcast up and running. Again, guys, I apologize that there we go. We'll post that out. I wanted to get live as quickly as possible. So let's go to, let's not waste any more time. Let's go straight into CPAC.
And I think it has been explained that there is no ability on behalf of opposition members to know when someone is introduced from the gallery. We had no notice and we had no context for that. However, there is a concept in law.
Sorry, I just want to make sure the sound's balanced so you guys can hear me and the video.
And that concept is someone either knew or ought to have known. And this is where we have a disconnect in these discussions today, because it isn't only up to the Speaker of the House who sits in the gallery. It is up to the responsibility of those charged with our national security and our overall security in this House. Those of us who lived through a terrorist attack back in 2014 know this all too well, when someone charged into Centre Block with a weapon, and we were all engaged in that terrible day. And because of that day, when we used to have just an unlocked door in front of Parliament,
I don't do too many live chats from OBS.
I think our naivete was shattered that day, and changes were made, as the House Leader has already gone through. And those changes squarely put the responsibility for the safety and security of all our members in this House in open galleries. There are countries that have bulletproof glass between the public galleries and their legislators. Not here. We still have a very open way of doing our business. But we put trust in those.
And I'm not being drowned out by the audio?
We're good? We got a balance? In the Prime Minister's office, in the Privy Council office, and in the Speaker's office, to ensure that we have our debates here, we have our discussions free of worry about security issues or when it comes to recognizing, we trust that the reason we're being asked to recognize is because that person has made significant contributions either to Canada or internationally, or they are noted and elected government officials sometimes from provinces
Audio's
or
good,
other
great.
countries.
Good.
So
Sounds
we
good, great.
repose that trust in
So-
our authority.
Keep your eyes on the subtitles,
positions.
folks. I'm just going to mute the audio here for 1 second just to state the reason for this broadcast wasn't just so my son Steve could get on camera, but it's the excuses coming out of the House of Commons while we're seeing all members of Parliament should be apologizing right now for the travesty of what took place, inviting a Nazi SS soldier into the Parliament and honoring them alongside Zelensky. And the excuses coming out and the damage control is so unbearable. I wanted to go live and I wanted to share it with you guys. So let's listen in, and I'm going to kind of commentate as we go on here so that we can see live just how disgraceful our country is. Let's take a look. There's our disgraced House Speaker, who apparently doesn't do his homework.
On a point of order.
Speaker, as a Polish Canadian, I can say that for many Poles and Polish Canadians, the month of September is a difficult one. It's a month where many Poles and Polish Canadians commemorate the German Nazi invasion of Poland and the Soviet-Russian invasion of Poland, September 17th.
So you should apologize
6
for what you
million
did.
Poles were murdered, were killed in the Second World War. 1 out of 5 citizens. The presence of the gentleman in the gallery was something that is deeply hurtful to Polish Canadians, to Poles. And his membership in the 1st Ukrainian Division, or the Waffen-SS Galician Division, this is a particularly cruel, exceptionally cruel unit that murdered thousands of Jews, thousands of Poles.
And you all clapped for
in
him.
Eastern Poland. Viciously, viciously murdering Poles and Jews. And so that moment in the House was something that is deeply painful to my community, to Polish Canadians and Poles abroad.
Yeah, Mark, absolutely, all
But
Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, I know you as a good man.
It's disgusting.
The delegations that come here internationally know you as a good man. You have taken
A good man who
ownership
invites Nazis into Parliament.
of this grievous error. You have promptly taken responsibility, full responsibility on your shoulders, and you apologized deeply. My interest here is that we work together as parliamentarians to make sure that we have the systems in place, that this never happens again in this House.
See, here it is. No apologies. No demanding anybody step down. No resignations.
Thank
Just,
the honourable
hey,
member
let's
for
make sure we
Windsor
don't
to
do it
come
again.
see. If there's no other interventions,
Yeah, look
Once
at
again-
Rhoda, how quiet he is.
I want to apologize
Oh, he's going to apologize,
happened.
everybody.
and really tell you that the intention was not to embarrass this House.
Well, you did.
Intention était
You embarrassed the country.
The intention was to show what history was about and how it continues and how things should stop.
My sincere apologies to the House, to each and every one of you who are in the House today, and to all Canadians for having been put through this. It being 11:35, the House will now proceed to the consideration of private members' business listed on today's order paper. Orders of the day.
So,
Private members'
David, I
business, resuming
partially
debate
agree,
at
but
second
also
reading
I don't
of
want him
Bill
to step
C.
down because this is on all of them. This
an
isn't
act
just
to
him.
amend the Excise
They all
Tax
stood in
Act,
ovation
Mental
and
Health Services,
applauded
standing in the name of Mr.
this
Ellis.
lunacy,
The member for
This-
Richmond Hill.
break of security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We're a joke on the world
It
stage.
is quite difficult to deliver this intervention after the conversation we had in the House. However, the business
Here's
of the
another
government
liberal
has to
apologizing.
continue.
Where's the rage?
Mr. Speaker,
Where's
I appreciate the
the
opportunity to take part in
where's
today's
the
second
onus?
reading of Private Member Bill C-323, an act to amend the Excise Tax Act, Mental Health Services. As we know, this bill would exempt supplies of psychotherapy
So again,
and mental
I'm just going to
health
mute this because they're talking about a tax bill right now, and they're probably going to get back to their virtue signaling powwow. What I was seeing on CPAC, and the reason that I started this live stream was because I wanted to show just which MPs are standing up to play damage control right now and try to kind of say, it's okay. You know, we all make mistakes, everybody, right? It's okay when Justin Trudeau or the Liberal Party or anybody else, you know, make a mistake. But if, you know, the Conservative government do it, well, we'll throw them under the bus, we'll mock them, we'll ridicule them, we'll call our people Nazis and fascists for standing up for their fundamental freedoms. But we're going to invite an actual Nazi into the House of Commons. We're going to give them 2 standing ovations while we launder money to the Ukraine in an ongoing proxy war to funnel money, essentially. While our citizens are struggling, our citizens can't pay their bills, they can't put food in the fridge or keep a roof over their head, but we're going to give these guys money and applaud a Nazi. During Yom Kippur, I might remind everybody. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting and deplorable. Of course, one thing I want to bring up here, give me 1 second here, folks. I'm going to be bringing up another feed on Twitter. So Marty Up North has put out a viral hashtag that I've kind of jumped on here, similar to his Trudeau must go hashtag, where I've copied and pasted. Hi, my name is Derek. As a Canadian citizen, I'm disgusted that our Prime Minister would give a standing ovation to a Nazi. Please join me in demanding that Trudeau resign. Hashtag Trudeau must go, Trudeau must resign. Canadians need an apology from all 338 MPs. This isn't an apology to Anthony Rota or accepting his apology and saying this is okay. It's okay to treat the Canadian citizens like this. It's okay to embarrass us further on the world stage and make us look like not only that we're stupid, but that we support, harbor, and protect Nazi soldiers. Absolutely inexcusable and disgusting. I know Theo Fleury has put out this tweet. Marty's put out this tweet. A handful of other people have. But even here we can see Karina Gould with her photo with the House Speaker and this upstanding gentleman that they applauded. And she makes a statement saying, oh, we should all just move along from it. Anthony Rota took responsibility, everybody. It wasn't the government. It wasn't us that did it. We couldn't have possibly done this. Please forgive us. You believe us, right? Unreal. Unreal. Trudeau's a commie. Is this not some sort of hate crime? I would classify it as one. Now, what I can do as a private citizen, what I can do in regards to this, I've spoken with my people, my people that I've said, you know, what can I do? And again, this isn't a plug. This is just an update. Anybody who enjoyed how the Prime Minister stole freedom, I'm bringing out a direct sequel very quickly. I'm going to rush this one out. That doesn't mean the quality's not going to be there. It's going to be rushed out. I'm going full bore on Trudeau at this point, and we're going to do something to make reprimands to those who have been affected and put this book out. In terms of financial support, a donation, something to somebody, we're gonna take our time to figure out where that's gonna go. But a direct sequel to this book is coming out, and I'm looking forward to bringing that to you. Let's go back. Of course, they're still discussing tax bills, making excuses. Joe asking, did you see the letter I wrote to my MP? Joe, if you want to tell me where I can find that, or post a link, and I'll bring that up. I'll bring that up in the chat. One thing I wanted to point out too, while we're on this, where's my replies? Jagmeet Singh coming out this morning with his virtue signaling statement. After he stood and clapped twice, how honorable it was to meet Zelensky in the House of Commons. I share the concerns about the individual honored with a standing ovation in the House of Commons on Friday. Well, you didn't share any concerns when you joyfully applauded for him. He was not a guest of the NDP. Oh, so don't blame us. and we were not aware of his background or association with the regime in World War II. This event has caused harm to the Jewish community, and for that, I'm sorry. Yeah, you wouldn't want to push out your voters. New Democrats will be raising our concerns about how this was allowed to happen with the government directly. We must all stand together against the rising tide of anti-Semitism. Jagmeet Singh, Jugmeet, whatever you go, I don't care, loser, clown, charlatan, you want to stand together against the rising tide of anti-Semitism? You don't invite Nazis into parliament and applaud them and call them a hero. Idiot. Stupid, stupid idiot. I've had it with this government. I don't know about you guys. I've had it. Absolutely had it. It's inexcusable. Sorry, I'm going back to CPAC. I'm waiting for them to get on to somebody else because the excuses that are coming, they're discussing a tax bill here, but they keep talking about what happened and keep virtue signaling. They keep making excuses. The Bloc representatives came out this morning saying, oh, we forgive you, House Speaker. It's okay. You made a mistake. We just need to move past this. And that's when I decided, you know what, I'm starting a stream. I'm going to stream CPAC. And if something comes up, we're going to cover it. We're going to talk about it live on the channel. Joe letting me know that what he has is in my DMs. My DMs on Twitter, Joe, or Discord? I'm assuming Discord. Give me 1 second, folks. Sorry, all my windows are going to be popping up here as I'm doing this. Again, this is on the fly. Usually I do my streams from StreamYard because it's a very simple application, but we don't get audio from web browsers when I do anything on StreamYard. But let's take a look at Joe Lyman, good friend of the channel, mod on the channel. Let's take a look at what he wrote to his MP today. I'm deeply disappointed in every MP that joined along in clapping for the Nazi. This is completely beyond the pale. If someone is introduced to you as someone who fought against the Russians in World War II, the absolute last response that should go through your head is to clap. The only reason why this has happened across all parties is because this is unitary belief, that due to the Ukraine war, Russia is bad, and all people who fought against Russians must therefore be good. It is disgusting to think that virtually all of our elected representatives couldn't think their way out of a paper bag. Following along with the crowd for fear of standing out, MPs are here to represent the people. And speaking as a Canadian, absolutely none of those MPs represented Canadian values. I'm upset beyond the pale. I do not want to see apologies. I want to see people resigning in the shame they have brought their country. Couldn't agree more. Resigning for inviting the Nazi, resigning for the duplicity, for duplicitously describing him, and resigning for being so spineless that you would hear someone described as above end up standing and clapping. Further, not calling out such actions, also amongst your peers, also is an action deserving of corrective action. Sadly, however, every day I wake up, I see nobody has lost their jobs due to this massive breach of the Canadian, or the public contract. The more I understand, I live in a totalitarianism hellhole where accountability only ever happens when it is fashionable to do so. That's unreal. That's a great letter. I'd implore anybody, write your MPs at this point. Outrage. I'm talking about outrage. Don't be civil. Don't kiss their butts and say, oh, you know, we're understanding. You should be saying, you're all clowns. You should all be leaving right now. You should all be resigning. You should all get the hell out. Make way for people who are actually competent, people who know what they're doing. It's disgusting. Trudeau will resign and get a $200,000 pension for life, much like former Governor General, and that will be his punishment. I bet he knew. Patty's got it nailed on the head. Again, there should be reform in our electoral system. That if you mess up like this, oh look, they changed speakers because they don't want to put Rhoda on display.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Rimouski, Neigette, Témiscouata, Les Basques. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am enthusiastic and proud to rise for the first time this session to speak to a bill and also to represent the people of my riding. Hello to everyone in my riding. Mr. Speaker,
Distraction. They're not
I
going
rise
to
today
focus
to
on the
speak
problem.
to a topic that is close to our hearts, a topic that affects every Quebecer and every Canadian, and that is mental health. In today's complex, highly demanding, and ever-changing world, more and more people
let's not talk about what happened
with mental
anymore.
health issues.
Let's move on to business, ladies and gentlemen.
The COVID-19 pandemic has led to an explosion in Canadians' needs for mental health care. Some
yes, because you locked them in their house for 2.5 years and called them Nazis.
The uncertainty, anxiety, and difficulties brought on by this unprecedented situation have significantly contributed to this second epidemic, which often flies under the radar. It's therefore with a view to facilitating and promoting access to mental health care that the Bloc Québécois will be supporting Bill C-323, an act to amend the Excise Tax Act. This bill aims to improve the affordability of psychotherapy and mental health counseling services. It will make them more affordable by exempting them from the GST.
Hold on 1 second, folks. My son's on his arcade. I gotta turn it down. Hold on, give me 1 sec. I'm gonna run this audio, and then I'll fix that. Give me 1 second.
Difficult for many people, Mr. Speaker. Mortgage and rent costs, groceries, gas, school supplies, everything costs more. And when you have to choose between feeding your kids or going to psychotherapy, pretty much everyone will choose the former. In this context, the Bloc Québécois feels that it's reasonable for the federal government to stop collecting.
It's tough to live stream during the day when I'm a full-time father, because this is my again, I bring in my little sidekick, Steve, and of course he's living his day-to-day, but I thought this was important because these guys are, so again, they're talking about mental health, COVID bills, they're doing business as usual. And part of the reason for this stream was to outline the excuses that were being made as they took in business this morning. I wonder if we can actually go back. I wonder if we can actually go back to the beginning and see. Yes, we can. Let's go back. They're not discussing the apologies anymore, so let's go back to the beginning. Thank God we can go back in the live.
Respected. So I think the culture we have, the values we have, are actually quite compatible with the data economy that needs to get built up around the civic data.
Okay, so let's skip
as opposed
past
to the consumer internet business model.
Failure, and again, it speaks to the distrust that citizens have of big companies.
Sorry, folks. Right? I'm gonna get past Senate hearings and
from British Columbia,
traditional housing. The House Speaker
said some of these things
coming in and making the excuse fair that we saw this morning. And then we're going to discuss, because this was, again, keep in mind, this was a live stream. And I jumped on because of the excuses that were going around. Look at this. They got their little interviews and stuff. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's get into it. Here comes the excuse fest.
I wish to make a brief statement.
On Friday, in connection with my speech following the Ukrainian president's speech, I pointed out the presence of an individual in the gallery. It was my intention to show that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is nothing new, and that Ukrainians have unfortunately been subject to foreign aggression for far too long now, and it's time it stopped.
Money laundering.
I'm aware of more information which causes me to regret my decision to recognize this individual. I wish to apologize to the House, and I'm deeply sorry that I've offended many.
Oh, I'm sorry I offended you by inviting a Nazi.
Remarks. I would also like to add that this initiative was entirely my own. The individual in question being from my riding and having been brought to my attention. No one, including you, my fellow parliamentarians, or the Ukraine delegation,
Wick's got a good point there.
Was privy to my remarks prior to their delivery. Je remercie les députés.
I'd like to thank members for their attention.
The Honourable Minister is rising on a point of order.
Oh, honourable.
Thank you, Mr.
Honourable.
Speaker, for that apology.
Oh, thanks for the apology while we virtue signal. Here we go.
I have to say, though, as a parliamentarian, as a Canadian of Jewish origin.
Now, hold on. This is the representative who also tweeted out a picture of her standing with the House Speaker, acknowledging this Nazi SS man, and said, "Oh, Rhoda took responsibility. Don't blame us, everybody. Don't blame us." So here we go with her empty virtue signal. Let's go.
As a descendant of Holocaust survivors whose majority of her family walked in to Auschwitz-Birkenau.
Oh, here comes.
My
Sad story.
grandfather and his brother walked out. That I think this hurt all of us in Parliament. And I'll say that personally, I feel particularly hurt by this.
You're hurt. But you clapped. Didn't you clap?
I would say that as parliamentarians, we place our trust in you. There are many times when we recognize people in the gallery, and we do so on your good advice and your good offices. And all of us here did that in the chamber on Friday.
This is
we trusted
disgusting.
you on that. I think this unfortunate situation has been deeply embarrassing for Canada's Parliament. I think it's been deeply embarrassing for Canada. And I think it was deeply embarrassing for the
It's
President
insulting.
of Ukraine, who came here.
It's not embarrassing. It's deplorable.
Who came here because we are a strong ally.
Why not freeze their
and
bank
who came
accounts?
here because he trusted Canadians. I appreciate that this was that you're taking responsibility because this was your.
Oh, we're glad you're throwing your name under the
initiative,
bus instead of all of
and
us.
You have confirmed
Thank you.
that neither the government of Canada nor the Ukrainian delegation had any prior knowledge.
Keep in mind, this lady called you all Nazis for being unvaccinated, right? And standing up for a freedom convoy. This is where the hypocrisy sinks in, and this is where these are morons that are running our country. Absolute clowns. Our banana republic is an absolute shit show.
To this individual being invited to the House or that he would be recognized. However, given this deeply embarrassing situation, I think for all of us as parliamentarians on all sides, I think it is very important that we collectively work together to strike this recognition from the record, and I will work with my colleagues to do that. To all those who have loved ones that were in the Holocaust, to Jewish Canadians, today being Yom Kippur, the holiest day
Today
in the
being
Jewish
Yom Kippur,
calendar,
we're sorry
a day
that
of
we just
atonement,
obliterated everything
a day
that matters to
prepare
you.
for the year ahead. We stand with you in this. We recognize this was a deeply hurtful moment.
Oh.
And many of us in this chamber feel that
Oh.
acutely. I want to
She's sorry, everybody.
please ask all colleagues, particularly those in the Conservative Party of Canada, to make sure that we do not politicize this issue. I don't think it helps anybody. I think we need to make sure.
So
that
hear
we
that?
move
We don't
forward.
want to politicize this issue. We need to keep it healthy. We need to sweep it under the rug because we look horrible, because we are horrible. Do you hear that? We don't need to politicize this. If Pierre Poilievre invited this individual to a conservative gathering, do you not think these guys would be running amok with this? Now, they're all guilty. They all clap like seals. She's all, oh, we don't need to politicize this. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. You're a sham. You're shameful.
Recognize this mistake and stand in solidarity together to reiterate.
Oh,
our
let's all
commitment
heal, everybody.
to Jewish Canadians,
It's not their fault.
but also to Ukrainian Canadians and the people who are fighting for freedom, for peace, and for
What a
justice
waste.
in Ukraine right now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to thank the honourable member for her comment. And the honourable
Of course it's all
member
planned
for
and staged.
New Westminster Burnaby, please.
It's damage control.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with great sadness that I take the floor today following the statement you just made.
Keep in mind, this is
and to
NDP.
deal with what happened in the House on Friday.
Parliament entrusts the Speaker to guide this Parliament through challenging circumstances. And Mr. Speaker, you have done an admirable job doing just that. Through COVID-19, the occupation of downtown Ottawa last winter, and the putting in place of a hybrid Parliament.
Yeah, John McNeil. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
The House of Commons procedures and practices indicate that the Speaker has various roles, including ceremonial and diplomatic, and our Speaker often acts as a representative of the House.
This is embarrassing. This is almost as embarrassing.
Is important, and that is why he alone has
clapping
the
for
privilege
this
of
idiot.
recognizing visitors in the gallery. This privileged role led to a situation on Friday in which an individual who, according to the Simon Wiesenthal Center, was a member of a Nazi unit responsible for the death of many Jews and was convicted in the Nuremberg trials.
This individual was a guest of this House, and shocking that members of Parliament rose to give him an ovation. Members did so,
including yourself, moron.
That this individual should indeed be granted this honor in good faith. We have members of Parliament who have dedicated significant parts of their lives to fighting racism, fascism, and anti-Semitism. We have members of Parliament who lost family members to Nazism. 2 members of my family, my uncle and my grandfather, whose names are commemorated on the cenotaph in New Westminster, BC, are part of the scars of this history. These same members of Parliament feel betrayed right now, as do members of the Jewish community and of other communities who are victims of the horrific violence of the Nazis. À bien des égards, le président est le visage de cette chambre.
In many ways, the Speaker is the face of this House and represents our joint commitment to democratic institutions and principles. The Speaker has to be above reproach
look
in
at
that
this.
role.
The stream's just been demonetized.
Although we appreciate the apology
because
made
we're
by
talking
the
about
Speaker
Nazis
yesterday and in his statement today. We regretfully.
You know, this is the funny part, is that when I do these broadcasts, people often say when they watch today's video talking about this event happening last week, I used words like bad guys from WW2. I wasn't saying anything about Polish people or anything like that, because YouTube demonetizes you for speaking out like that. They bury you in the algorithm. And now they're saying, I just got a notification, your stream's demonetized. You're not going to earn anything off of this because oh, you're talking bad about the government that embarrassed the world. Oh, give me a break. Gotta love YouTube.
Sadly say that that's not enough.
Unforgivable error, which puts the entire House in disrepute.
No, David, it wasn't any. It's what we're covering.
And
It's not the viewers or the chat. It's what we're covering.
It's for that reason, for the good of the institution of the House of Commons, that I say, sadly, I don't believe you can continue in this role. Regrettably, I must respectfully ask that you step aside.
He respectfully asked that he step aside. He wants him to step aside. What about the rest of them that clapped? What's good for the goose is only good for the gander, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, this man's going to stand up and say, oh, I hope you step aside. You should all step aside.
Step down from
Pack your bags and get out, idiot.
Merci au commentaire. Thank you for that comment.
Mr. Speaker, this is a very grave incident.
Now here's Andrew Scheer.
On a day when the government...
He's going to drink a glass of milk.
...is welcoming the head of state of Ukraine, a country that is undergoing an unjust and illegal invasion. There was a guest in the gallery whose presence fed into the Russian propaganda and narrative about the bogus justification for Putin's illegal invasion.
Oh, they're going back to Putin.
State visits.
Don't look
are
at us.
organized by
Putin's the bad
government.
guy.
Every aspect of President Zelensky's visit would have been highly managed by the PMO. There are obviously incredible security concerns when you have not just a head of state, not just a head of a foreign dignitary, but someone whose people are fighting for their lives and their survival, someone who is targeted by Vladimir Putin's regime. Obviously, there are massive
Look at the distraction.
security implications. Your statement doesn't answer the questions around how this individual was vetted, how the government, who would have seen all aspects, all guest lists, all interactions with President Zelensky, allowed that person to be in the chamber. Members of Parliament don't have the ability to vet who might happen to be in the chamber on any given day. That's the responsibility of the Director of Protective Services, who reports to the Minister of Public Safety. And the coordination between the Prime Minister's office, the protocol office here in the House of Commons, and that protective service is what members trust is happening to make sure that things like that don't happen.
Mr. Ross, thank you for becoming a member of the
If
Fringe.
someone
Thank you for
of
joining the
that
channel.
background,
Really helps,
which
especially when
a
we're demonetized. I appreciate you
straightforward
becoming a
Google
member. Thank you
search
for that. Thank you so much.
will show served in that particular division during World War II. If that basic level of vetting was not done by the government, that raises.
I just want to say while we're on this, just a brief pause. I've always said that Andrew Scheer, when he talks, looks like the kid who farted in grade 1. And he's trying to hide his smile. Like, he's always got that smirk. I don't know if that's like a thing with him. I don't know if that's like something he can't help, but like he still has that smirk today. It's bizarre. Even during bad times, he still has that little I just farted smirk.
Serious concerns. What kind of message does that send to our allies around the world? That when they come to the House of Commons to address the House and Senate, that basic rudimentary vetting as to who might be in the galleries isn't done? That's incredible, Mr. Speaker. So we'll take your statement under advisement. We'll have more to say on this, but there are still many, many questions that need to be answered as to how the Prime Minister's office so completely dropped the ball on this.
The government dropped the ball on this. Again, Andrew Scheer, you all clapped for this person. You all applauded. You're telling me the Conservative Party isn't aware of the guests that come to Parliament?
Mr. Speaker,
Yeah, we know the money's
I'd
being
just
laundered
like
like
to
Giver.
respond to my honourable colleague, because I think we both share the frustration.
More virtue
about what
signaling
happened
coming up,
on
folks.
Friday, but I do want to reiterate, and as you have made very clear in your statement, Mr. Speaker, that this was your initiative. The Government of Canada had no knowledge of this individual coming to.
Okay, so you can already hear the groaning in the background, and here it comes. Oh, guys, we had no knowledge. Don't throw us under the bus. I only took photos with the House Speaker and clapped for everybody, and I've just said we shouldn't politicize what's going on. But guys, it wasn't us. It wasn't us. It wasn't us. Typical bullshit liberal behavior. Oh, don't blame us, everybody. Oh, don't blame us for scandals. Don't blame us for giving money to the Kielburgers. Don't blame us for the Aga Khan. Don't blame us for laundering money with the Ukraine. Don't blame us for bringing SS people into the House of Commons and awarding them. Like, when does it end? When does it get this silly idiot out of the House? This moronic... I don't even want to say something I'm going to regret. I don't think it's going to be mean, but this is disgusting.
The government had no knowledge. The Speaker is responsible for this chamber.
Yeah, throw the
He
Speaker under the
invited
bus.
him of his own accord.
You applauded.
He made the decision himself to recognize him. Neither the Government of Canada nor the delegation of Ukraine had any knowledge of this. I would respectfully submit, Mr. Speaker, that you clarify this for the members opposite, because it's important that this information be clear and that these false
no
allegations
misinformation,
do not
people.
continue.
So they're gonna call them misogynists. I wonder if they're gonna call them Nazis again for questioning where did this information come from? Why wasn't it vetted? Why didn't I'll give Andrew Scheer those points, but Andrew Scheer, you still clapped. You're telling me that the Conservative Party wasn't aware of who was being brought in? People keep saying back in the chat, where's Melissa Lantsman? As somebody who personally knows Melissa Lantsman, I feel horrible for what's going on, but she also clapped. How do you think she feels knowing she clapped for this and represented this? I'd be curious for her point of view and what she thinks of her party that wasn't aware of what was going on, supposedly. And this virtue signaling witch coming out saying, oh, guys, it wasn't us. Oh, God, don't blame us. Don't say anything bad about us. Let's sweep it under the rug. If Pierre Poilievre made this mistake and he was the prime minister, you'd never hear the end of it. You'd never hear the end of it. The speaker saying, be respectful while people in the back are screaming. They should be screaming. People should be calling for their heads on a platter. Is be respectful. You should have been respectful before inviting a Nazi into the House of Commons.
Because they're not true. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
Our
We'll
feelings.
proceed to the honourable member for La Prairie and then come back to the member for Regina Capel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, today, before I talk about the situation before us,
this was the
I'd
one
like
that got
to
me
say
upset
that
and
I
riled to
have
live stream.
thoughts for people who suffered in World War II. It was one of the darkest moments in history, particularly for the Jewish community, who experienced full-on the aggression of a pitiless invader. Mr. Speaker, you know how much I've always found your work to be outstanding, and I've always taken the trouble of saying so. So I'm a bit emotional about this. You've always been a strength in our view. We've never
big strength.
doubted anything you proposed or anything you did. So much so that on Friday, when you suggested that we applaud an individual who, it turns out, was with the Nazis, we never would have thought that it was anything but a deserving person, a person deserving of the House's ovation. And then subsequently, we learned that that was not so. This was someone with a very dark past, and that was a shock. It came as a shock to us because you were, in a way, responsible for that commendation. That said, you apologized, and I'm completely convinced that that was a sincere apology.
Oh, well, there it is. And this is what set me off to start this live stream. Oh, sir, you apologized, and I believe it's sincere. So let's just move along, shall we? Keep in mind, and I keep saying, watch the parties that are showing up doing this. At least the Conservatives said, how was this person not vetted? How did this get past security? I'll give them that much, but they all clapped. This asshole is standing up and saying, oh, yeah, you apologized. It's okay. Just like the Liberals with, oh, let's sweep it under the rug. Let's forget it happened because it's damning. They're all clowns. They're all clowns.
And it's your conscience, your wisdom, and
your wisdom
it's not
that
for
brought
me
a
to
Nazi
say
into the House of
whether
Commons.
Those apologies were sufficient. I'd like to go beyond partisanship here. I think this situation calls on us to be better than that. This was a situation where the Ukrainian leader, who may feel affected by the situation. So when you think in Quebec,
did you hear that?
And in Canada,
the Ukrainian leader may be affected by this situation, guys. We got to worry about Zelensky while he's out doing lines out back. We got to be worried about his reputation as he launders everybody's money in the biggest proxy war of all time.
People
Give me a
that
break.
are standing in solidarity with Ukraine and the Ukrainian leader. Well, let's just say that that situation was not what we would have hoped for. The Ukrainian leader is a hero. And unfortunately, he is somehow tarnished by what happened on Friday.
And he's been tarnished. So no bit of, hey, we all stood up, we all clapped, we all acknowledged an SS soldier. Guys, we got to worry about Zelensky and his tarnished image from being in Canada while being around that. He's laundering everybody's money in a proxy war. He's a grifter. He's the textbook definition of a grifter. I mean, goddamn. I'm usually not this angry and upset. If you ever watch my streams, if you've watched my videos in the past, I don't get like this. But this is so infuriating and so disgusting.
I believe the honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Calgary Nose Hill, here we go.
As chair of the Canada-Slovakia Parliamentary Friendship Group, it's my obligation to point out that the individual in question who was recognized on Friday was part of the division that was used against the Slovak National Uprising, which was a military uprising organized by Slovak resistance movements during World War II, comprised of the anti-Nazi political faction of the Slovak nation, which is my heritage. Units of this division this man fought with were sent to help squash the Slovak rebellion. Battle groups were formed to actively search out and destroy members of the resistance. And according to Slovak historian Kay Fremal, the division's members were helping in anti-partisan, repressive, and terrorist actions and committed murders and other excesses. Based on what I've heard in the House today, I feel like this is the government trying to collectivize responsibility for an incident that was solely within their purview.
Joe, absolutely. Everyone should write their
the
representatives and demand
President to our
accountability
country,
immediately.
We had a duty to protect him in all aspects. And by the government failing to have either a non-existent or judgment-free vetting process for members who would be recognized and lauded in the House of Commons, the House of Commons should be not accepting collective responsibility for that abject, egregious lack of judgment that has tarnished the reputation of our country and led to people like the ambassador from Poland demanding an apology from us. This is a time in which our country needs to be having, our allies need to be standing with us. There should be no question about whether or not we have our act together, and yet here we are having this debate. It's beyond an embarrassment.
Yeah,
It is
338
a stain on our
traitors.
country. And I refuse, as a member of this place who represents 120,000 Canadians, to collectively share responsibility with a government that has a pattern of not vetting questionable individuals that they take meetings with.
So here's one thing I'm going to say right now. See any of these conservatives, if they wanted to solidify that they had no idea what was going on and they wanted to take responsibility, people like Michelle Rempel-Garnier, as they stand here and virtue signal, should be coming out and saying, I can't represent a party that allows these kind of people to come into the House of Commons. And I wasn't aware that they came in. So for that reason, I will be stepping down and leaving this position because I cannot work in a corrupt government that brings in SS soldiers and honors them as heroes. I'm embarrassed that I clapped. I'm embarrassed that I was part of that, and I cannot continue in my career as a result. That would show some form of sincerity that you had no idea what was going on. Listen, you're still going to get your precious little pension. You're still going to ride off into the sunset. Do the right damn thing. If you're that upset about it, if it's really struck you and your community, then get out. You clapped too. All 338 of you. And I even said in my video this morning, I understand there's a process in the House of Commons that its basic nature that, look, you got to be respectful. You got to, like we saw it with Pierre's half-assed clap for Zelensky, that he was not impressed. He didn't want him there. But the fact of the matter is that when all of you clap for an SS soldier like this and shame our country, the onus is on you. All of you. And all these people keep saying is that, hey, we gotta acknowledge this and we gotta talk about it and we gotta throw the speaker under the bus and we gotta make sure the Liberals understand how upset we are. Guys, you're all guilty. There's no other way around it. You're all guilty of this. So how do we fix it?
Jaswell Atwell, Joshua Boyle. Enough. I will not, on behalf of my constituents, take 1 ounce of blame for this government failing a vetting process. They can say, Mr. Speaker, it was your purview. They invited this man.
Okay, so she's not going to take any responsibility for who came into the House of Commons. What about responsibility for clapping for this individual? That's what we're asking for here.
Invited this world global leader here, and they failed to vet this. So no, On behalf of the constituents of Calgary Nose Hill, I will not accept collective responsibility, and the buck stops at the Prime Minister's office.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader, then the Government House Leader. Before anything starts, I just want to make it clear that it was my decision. And my
here's this little
alone.
quiet voice.
This was a
retort.
constituent who wanted to see wanted to be here, and I recognized him. It was my decision, and I apologize profusely. I cannot tell you
me and my
how regretful it is.
my low volume voice, and I cannot tell you how much I regret that somebody wanted to get in here and be recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, I was in the House of Commons in October. I was in the House of Commons and invited by the Conservative Party of Canada to sit in the gallery and watch question period, and then go down into the inner offices of the House of Commons and shake hands with and meet the majority of the Conservative Party of Canada, sign books for them, and be told, we can't take pictures of you with your book because the media will jump all over us, and they'll know who you are, and it makes our party look bad. But we're grateful you came out. So I, as somebody who did something viral, was recognized and asked to attend in Ottawa, which, by the way, I paid for my own flight, hotel, and accommodations while I was in Ottawa, but invited out to be recognized for what I did. I wasn't brought into the House of Commons while people clapped. I was told that what I did with my book was disgusting enough that while they appreciated the work, we can't publicize anything that you're doing. But we'll bring an SS soldier into the House of Commons and clap for him. And Rhoda's going to sit here and say, we feel bad. Oh, this was all on me. This guy wanted to see the inner workings of the House of Commons. I was in there. Now, I'm not trying to make this about me, but I'm just saying the hypocrisy that my little book that poked fun at Justin Trudeau and made him get up and leave as soon as he saw my face was enough for me not to be recognized in the House of Commons, but we'll bring in an SS soldier and call them a hero, nonetheless, while we launder our money to the Ukraine out of taxpayers' pockets.
And it may not be good enough for some of you, and for that I apologize. And I'll let the Honourable Opposition House Leader take it from here, and then we'll go to the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to underscore the point that my colleague just raised. This is a question about, is it the government's position that when we have a foreign head of state.
So Nicole in the chat here, the Conservatives didn't know. I don't think it's fair that they stepped down. Nicole, what I am saying is that they're sitting there saying, we didn't know who this person was. We heard Michelle Rempel-Garnier say, I will not take responsibility for that person being here. Fine. What about taking responsibility for the fact that you clapped for them? Maybe Conservative MPs should start saying, we are disgusted that we clapped for this individual without our knowledge. We're disgusted that we partook in House events. Like some form of accountability. Like it's like me saying, oh, I didn't know the safety was off on the handgun, but I still shot this person. I'd still be tried for murder because they'd still say, you still shot the guy though. Even if I apologize and say, I didn't know there was a bullet in the gun, you still shot them. Right? That's my point, is that I don't think all the Conservative Party should step down, but where's the accountability? If you're going to sit there and pander and say, well, we didn't know, fine, you didn't know, but you participated in it. You were still there. You all disgraced our country. So what's going to happen?
That the government does zero security vetting for who will be in the same room as that head of state. Is that the message that we're sending to our allies? That when they come here, you don't know who's going to be in the gallery. I mean, what?
Okay, so again, I'm gonna back that up because again, as I was invited to the House of Commons last October, they knew who I was. They knew that I was in the gallery, and they did their research before bringing me there. Because again, and again, I'm not trying to flex. I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm trying to say that this is where I know they're full of shit because I've experienced it personally. Okay, I went to the House of Commons and sat roughly 15 to 20 feet away from Justin Trudeau in terms of the upper gallery to where he was sitting down below. Now, I had no idea that Justin Trudeau knew my face. I knew that he knew about the book. I knew that he was embarrassed by the book, and I took that as a shot or a victory that I succeeded with what I wanted to do, which was embarrass Justin Trudeau. Now, I met with Melissa Lantzman the night before I went to question period, and she saw me up in the gallery and gave me a head nod and then pointed to Pierre that I was up top. Pierre leaned forward, smiled and waved. Justin Trudeau looks like, who's he waving to? And sees my face and instantly gets up, grabs his things, and leaves. Now, that was the greatest moment of my life next to having my kids and getting married. But I'll tell you one thing right now. For them to say, we don't know who comes into the galleries, we're not informed as to who's sitting up there, they get a list of everyone that's in the gallery. How do I know this? Because when I sat in question period, and if you've ever sat in question period, they always at the end of question period acknowledge those of stature that are sitting in the gallery. They don't bring them down to the floor, but they have them stand up. The House applauds for them. They had people from different delegations in the gallery the day I was there. Now, of course, I wasn't acknowledged because I wrote a disgusting book that only the Conservatives supported. But everyone else that was acknowledged by the House Speaker, and they knew damn well who was up there that day. So for them to say, we don't know who's up there, we don't know everybody that comes in, Andrew Scheer is lying when he says that. So take that as you want to, but I know from the process I went through, they are well aware of who they're bringing into that room and who sits in the gallery. They do a check. They had me sign off on it before I went up there, who I was and what I was doing there. I had to show my invitation. Even though the public can sit up there and watch, when you're invited, there is a process.
Message does that send to Canada's partners and allies around the world? And that's the point that we're raising, Mr. Speaker. It's all well and good for you to come in and accept your share of the responsibility. But there's only one entity in this chamber that has the resources and the mandate to keep people safe. As my colleague just pointed out, when President Zelensky comes here on the invitation of the Prime Minister, when the entire itinerary is planned by the PMO, the Government of Canada has an obligation to him personally to secure his safety, has a responsibility to the people of Ukraine to ensure the safety of their president. And he has a responsibility to all Canadians to uphold the dignity of Canada as a country, as a trusted partner and ally. And in all three of those areas, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister failed. Failed to do that basic level of responsibility. That's the point that we're underscoring, Mr. Speaker. There was a Nazi in the chamber. There's only one entity, one group that could have done anything about it, that could have flagged that. And as I mentioned...
Again, like I said, when I was put in the House of Commons, when I went there to question period, all parties knew I was there. And again, Justin Trudeau knew who the hell I was as soon as he saw my face. I don't accept that statement. I don't accept him saying only one party could have done something. Somebody mentioned it in the chat earlier, and I'm sorry, the chat's moving a little fast, so I didn't grab it. But saying that Pierre's slow clap says it all. Well, yeah, it shows his distaste for Zelensky, and that again he's just doing what's told that he has to do as the leader of the opposition. Again, just doing my job, right? But the problem here is when Andrew Scheer says, well, only the Liberals had the ability to do something about it. Any one of these Conservatives could have got out and left and refused to clap at any point. And they didn't. And I know for a fact, after being there and the process that went on, they're well aware of who's in there. Somebody didn't do their research, or else they're just that stupid.
Director of the Parliamentary Protective Service reports up to the Government of Canada for operational matters. That is in the mandate of the Protective Services. The Director of the Parliamentary Protective Service must be a member of the RCMP. That's in the enabling legislation. That was all done for a reason, Mr. Speaker. Yes. I was in the chair when that legislation was passed, and it was precisely because the House of Commons itself did not have the capability to do full security vettings and background checks on individuals.
I'm just going to pause again. And sorry, folks. I don't mean to. Boomer Baby saying, why is he clapping if he doesn't like Zelensky? He shouldn't be clapping. So I forget the exact term, but there's... Look, when I was going to run for... Or not when I was going to. When I stated I was going to run for city council, anytime I've met with any of the following city councilors, they've always told me, look, you can't attack Jody Gondek the way you're attacking her on Twitter. We have a code of ethics in here that we have to be respectful. There's a way that we say these things. There's a way we do things. We're just asking that you play ball. And I told them all to go to hell. I told them that I'm going to run my campaign the way I want to run my campaign. And part of the problem is the way that they all participate with each other and smile and nod. And people have had enough of that. People have had enough of the bullshit politics. So there's a certain expectation of behavior in the House of Commons that you can actually be removed and suspended from partaking in the House if you're not being what's called suitable. Again, I forget the exact term. So when Pierre was slow clapping for Zelensky, that again, and I'm not saying he couldn't have stood his ground. I'm not saying he couldn't have found a different way to express himself, but that's part of the business, and it's part of how they're expected to behave in the House when a foreign delegate is in there. So, again, you could tell Celtic Canuck put out a really good video showing the receiving line when Zelensky showed up, and you could see Pierre wasn't impressed to be standing in there. He didn't want to be in there. You could tell by his slow clap he wasn't happy. Unfortunately, as leader of the opposition, he has a job, and suitable decorum, I'm not sure if that's how they label it, but yes. It's similar to that, yes.
The reason why we did that.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
To make available to the House of Commons the resources of federal institutions like the RCMP and like CSIS. That is why we do not accept the attempt to collectivize blame for this. Opposition parties do not have access to CSIS reports. We do not have access to the RCMP's vast capabilities.
You don't have access to CSIS reports, but you do have access to the guest list for those being honored during question period. Somebody in that caucus should have done their research. Who is this guy? Again, you fought against Russia during World War II. Should tell them enough that they don't even need to go digging.
To do background checks and vetting. And in this case, it would have taken a simple Google search to find a blog post written by that individual saying that he served in an SS division, in a Nazi division during World War II. And
yeah,
again,
Boomer, I agree with you.
Resources are available to the government. The mandate, the responsibility lies with the government, and the entire reporting structure of the parliamentary precinct services here flows up to the government. That's why we still have many, many questions, and this issue does not end with your statement or your apology.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, I
Here comes
have
more
immense
virtue signaling,
respect
guys.
For my colleague opposite, in fact, he was the speaker. He occupied that chair. And so he would know that as the speaker, you do have prerogative to invite guests into the chamber. I will reiterate, neither the government nor the Ukrainian delegation had any prior knowledge. In fact, if colleagues will recall, when the recognition was done, it was done by the speaker, and we did it on the good offices of the
Point
speaker.
of order, Mr. Speaker.
So you hear somebody saying you couldn't get into a building without knowing the list of names? Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying when I was brought into the House of Commons. Same thing. They had a list.
Honourable member, to respect, this is a very difficult time for everyone in this chamber. And I understand that emotions are running loud and running high, but I'm going to ask everyone to...
Emotions are running loud and high. Rage is what they should be calling it. Not emotions. You sided with the worst possible people in the world.
Listen to each other. I don't think I've ever been through a tougher time in this chamber or in this
Oh,
House
guys, he's
since
going
I
through
got
a
here in
hard time.
2004.
Okay, you know what? I take that back. We should let up. He's going through the toughest time of his life for, making an honest mistake, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go easy on him, huh? Let's let up a little bit. I'm sorry, Mr. Rhoda. I'm sorry that we question you.
So I would ask some respect for both sides.
Pigs at a
So that
trough.
if someone is speaking, please show some respect. The Honourable Government House Leader, please continue.
Wow.
You know what? He's not even worth responding to. Please continue.
Oh, he's not worth responding
Speaker,
to.
I would just reiterate for colleagues that if they recall when this moment happened, it happened during the Speaker's remarks. We were all caught off guard by this. I'm not trying to collectivize responsibility. I'm trying to lay the facts on the table.
The facts, the
which
science.
my Conservative colleagues are choosing to ignore.
Guys, we all know the real culprit of this. We all know the real culprit, and she's going to say it. It's climate change. Okay? Climate change brought an SS soldier into the House of Commons. Climate change made everybody clap. It's the boosters mixed with the frequency of the climate changes that causes irrational behavior. These guys haven't had a more difficult time in their lives because they've been injected with saline to make us believe they've had the treatments, and it's counteracting with the climate change. So bear with us, ladies and gentlemen. Our carbon taxes are about to go up so that we can get rid of this nasty climate change so that something like this never happens again.
I have asked them respectfully not to politicize this issue. In fact, it hurts.
Yeah, I've asked them, don't politicize this issue. Don't politicize that we're like the biggest idiots on the planet. Jesus. The nerve of this absolute witch.
It hurts communities more than it helps them.
It hurts communities more than it helps them. You hurt the country. You hurt the country. You decimated the country honoring an SS soldier. Oh, it hurts the communities. You notice they keep using these virtue signaling woke tag words to everything. Oh, we want to get facts straight, everybody. It wasn't all of us. It was one of us. And it hurts our communities to point fingers and blame because we're actually at fault and we just don't want you to blame us for what we've done. Get out of here. God. Get made. Give me a break.
And as someone who personally has been deeply hurt by this, as indeed I believe all members in this chamber have been, I think that we need to work together to strike this recognition from the tape, from Hansard, and to ensure that this never happens again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Debating.
What a pig at a
The
trough.
Honourable Member for Grand Prairie Mackenzie.
On the same point of order, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your desire to take full responsibility for this entire event. But, Mr. Speaker, those of us who asked for guests to be able to attend Friday's proceedings...
Chippy, take a deep breath. I've been trying to take a deep breath all weekend. But here's the problem, Chippy. Here's the problem with Canada. Before President Fancy Socks came in to establish his new dictatorship, we were a free and proud country. We were a country that waved our flag at the Olympics, at sporting events, at competitions across the world to signal that Canada is one of the freest and greatest nations in this world. Over the last 8 years, we've been divided, ridiculed, called Nazis, misogynists, anti-science, terrorists, you name it, in the name of virtue signaling and profiteering off of the backs of Canadian people. This country is broken and has been destroyed. And last week, the pinnacle of the behavior came to a head as all 338 members of Parliament applauded a SS soldier in the House of Commons, not only shaming Canada on the world stage, but offending and upsetting anyone who ever believed in the free status of Canada and what Canada signaled to the world in terms of being free. We invited a Nazi into our house. And I'm not blaming you or yelling at you here. I'm talking just in general as to why I'm not taking a breath. I don't think anybody should be taking a breath. I know it was a joke. I know it was a joke what you were saying in terms of taking a breath, but none of us should be taking a breath right now. All of us should be enraged at what is going on here. Demand accountability. Enough is enough. We're a laughing joke on the world stage.
That we were required to give notice.
I'm
of the
embarrassed to be a
individuals
Canadian.
That we asked for permission. That went through a process. Emails were sent to those individuals. You, Mr. Speaker, were not standing at the door of this parliamentary precinct. There was massive security protocols. Individuals were required to be on extensive lists. That, Mr. Speaker, I don't believe that you individually vetted each of those names. Parliamentary Protective Services is responsible to the government. The lists were given to the government. One would assume that there would have been some process of vetting. If the government is now saying...
So again, they're distracting from the fact that there is a process of vetting. Again, Steve, Steve wants to chime in. Again, there is a process of vetting when you're acknowledged in the House of Commons. I was there last October. They know who you are, why you're there, why you were invited. Basic research. Basic research, folks. They're deflecting to make it look like the Conservatives, hey, they're innocent, they're washing their hands clean of this. And while they maybe didn't have a list, I guarantee you the House knew who this guy was.
Mr. Speaker, that none of that happened. Mr. Speaker, I know your desire to take this on, but I don't believe for a second that you went, verified each person who was invited to this place, verified that they were not a security risk, and then stood at the door and let them in. I know that wasn't the truth. So this attempt by the government to state that this was your doing and your doing alone, that you alone are responsible and that they bear no responsibility, is to send a signal to all Canadians and all of our allies that we're not serious about anything. Well, I'm not going to take collective responsibility for what, in fact, is the government's responsibility. And, Mr. Speaker, I'd recommend you not do it either.
It's all your responsibility for clapping for that charlatan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, I think my honourable colleague has misinterpreted what I was saying. What I was saying, and what you yourself indeed have said, is that you invited this particular individual. You yourself decided to recognize this individual.
So you notice what she's doing here? Every single time she stood up, it's Rhoda, Rhoda, Rhoda. He did it all. He did it all. Point your fingers at him. It's just, this is typical liberal fashion. Point it on to the person and throw them under the bus. Excuse me. Don't look at the Liberal Party at all. Don't blame the Liberals. We're all just pigs filling our wallets. Don't, like, give me a friggin' break.
Individual without informing either the government or the Ukrainian delegation that you would be doing this. When it comes to everyone that was invited to Parliament, of course that vetting happened. However, the decision to recognize an individual was that of the Speaker. And
so did you hear what she just said there? They vetted this person, but the decision to, so now she's digging her hole deeper. So she's admitting they vetted him, but it was the House Speaker's decision to acknowledge him. May I remind you, if you're going to say that they were vetted, you all clapped for him. So you're openly admitting he was vetted, and even though the Speaker acknowledged him, you all clapped for him. Dig your hole a little deeper, Karen. Friggin' moron.
That the members opposite would please be respectful. This is a very difficult time for all of us, but I do ask
it's very
them
difficult,
to
everybody.
stick to the facts and the issue at hand, which was the fact that this individual was invited by the Speaker and the decision to recognize by the Speaker, not by the government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So again, shifting blame, typical narcissistic move. Shifting blame and just forget about us. But the fact that's going to be damning, and I'm going to love to see if that comes up in further discussions. She openly just admitted that they vet everybody who comes into the House of Commons, which would say they knew damn well who this gentleman was. And even though it was the Speaker of the House's decision to recognize him, they all clapped for him. So what she's openly admitting right now on the floor is this man was vetted, we knew he was SS, and we clapped for him. That's what she just... I can't believe she just dropped that. And she's expecting us to just say, yeah, but it was the Speaker, guys. Give me a break.
The honourable member for Regina Capel, or the opposition House Leader.
Speaker, we are getting completely mixed messages today. And, you know, today is the celebration of Yom Kippur, where our Jewish fellow citizens will be celebrating.
Matt Prevost saying who discovered who this man was. So Karen back there was just saying that the Liberals vet everybody who comes in and they're given briefings. So she's basically admitting that they knew who this guy was, while denying that they knew who this guy was. And then saying, but it falls onto the House Speaker who recognized him, not us. But they all clap for him. They all clap for him. So what does that say?
Hot on the heels of this just atrocious international incident that the government allowed to happen, we need clarity. Just a few moments ago, the government House Leader said that the government had no idea that this individual was invited. Now, the House Leader has just said that there was a vetting process. So I'd like some clarity right now. Did the Government of Canada receive a list with this individual's name on it? Yes or no?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Here we go, Karen.
Speaker,
Spew some
I
more
was
bullshit.
referring to the fact that, of course, security
she knows
measures
she's
are
stepped in
taken
it.
for invitations to Parliament. However, this individual was invited by the Speaker. The government had...
Okay, so again, keep in mind what she just said there. She's dancing around it. Security measures are taken for anyone invited to the House of Commons, and they are vetted. However, it was the Speaker, she's saying, that did it. So again, she's acknowledging they knew who this was.
no knowledge that this individual was invited or that he would be recognized in Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for South Surrey, White Rocks.
On the same point of order, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate you
Jesus Christ.
taking responsibility for your part in this. It is
I know using that
is weighing
term
very
offends
heavily
some people that are
ever
religious, but
since
my
it
God.
happened on all of us here. And a lot of the public
It's a
does not
three-ring circus.
understand how this person or anyone with that history could possibly have been here and how all of us could not have known. And I think it has been explained that there is no ability on behalf of opposition members to know when someone is introduced from the gallery. We had no notice and we had no context for that. However, there is a concept in law about responsibility, and that concept is someone either knew or ought to have known. And this is where we have a disconnect in these discussions today.
Oh, Aaron, his
Because
resignation will
it
come.
isn't only
Don't
up
worry.
to the Speaker of the House.
The Liberals
who
will pay him
sits
out
in the
nicely to
gallery.
take responsibility
It is
and hopefully
up
make
to
it
the
fade away.
responsibility of those charged with our national security and our overall security in this House. Those of us who lived through a terrorist attack back in 2014 know this all too well when someone charged into Centre Block with a weapon, and we were all engaged in that terrible day.
Yes, Joe, I know.
And because of that day, when we used to have just an unlocked door in front of Parliament, I think our naivete was shattered that day, and changes were made, as the House Leader has already gone through. And those changes squarely put the responsibility for the safety and security of all our members in this House in open galleries. There are countries that have bulletproof glass between the public galleries and their legislators. Not here. We still have a very open way of doing our business.
Watch,
But
that'll be next.
we put trust in those, in authority, in the Prime Minister, in the Prime Minister's office, in the Privy Council office, and in the Speaker's office to ensure that we have our debates here, we have our discussions free of worry about security issues, or when it comes to recognizing, we trust that the reason we're being asked to recognize is because that person has made significant contributions either to Canada or internationally, or they are noted
well,
and
they did
elected
make
govern-
contributions internationally. They're responsible for the genocide of the Jewish community, right? They took an oath to uphold the Reich.
Officials sometimes
And you
from
all recognized them.
provinces or other countries. So we repose that trust in our authority positions. And it, in my view, Mr. Speaker, it is wrong and it is trying to escape responsibility for the government to say that they had nothing to do with it. If they didn't, they should have.
Yes.
And if they let it all happen and they are mere observers in the great play of life, as they often say about so many things, we're just on the outside, we're observers. No, they are the government, they are the executive, they are the ones in charge. And they should have done their job and they didn't.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary is rising on a point of order.
Speaker, as a Polish Canadian,
Oh, here we go. Right away, as a
can
Polish
say that
Canadian.
for many
Got a
Poles
virtue
and
signal.
Polish Canadians, the month of September is a difficult one. It's a month where many Poles and Polish Canadians commemorate the German Nazi invasion of Poland and the Soviet-Russian invasion
Drain
of
the
Poland,
house
September
amnesty,
17th.
not just clean it. Come in there
6
with a
million
street cleaner.
Poles were
Obliterate
murdered,
it.
were killed in the Second World War. 1 out of 5 citizens. The presence of the gentleman in the gallery was something that is deeply hurtful
Funes, I wouldn't be surprised.
to Polish Canadians, to Poles. And his membership in the first Ukrainian division, or the Waffen-SS Galician division. This is a particularly cruel, exceptionally cruel unit that murdered thousands of Jews, thousands of Poles in eastern Poland. Viciously, viciously murdering Poles and Jews. And so that moment in the House was something that is deeply painful to my community, to Polish Canadians and Poles abroad. But Mr. Speaker, I know you as a good man. The
A good man
delegations
who
that come
applauds
here
Nazis.
internationally know you as a good man. You have taken ownership of this grievous error. You have promptly taken responsibility, full responsibility on your shoulders. And you apologized deeply. My interest here is that we work together as parliamentarians to make sure that we have the systems in place, that this never happens again in this House.
So how do we make sure it never happens again? Get rid of the lot of you. You're all
thank the
traitors. He
honourable
clapped
member for
too,
Windsor
ladies and gentlemen.
Tecumseh.
I'll remind you that guy
There's no
speaking.
other
The Polish Canadian clapped too.
interventions. Once again, I want to apologize for what happened.
Oh, guys, he apologized.
And really tell you
He's
that
sorry.
the intention was not to embarrass this House.
But you did.
L'intention était de
The intention was to show what history was about and how it continues and how things should stop.
Oh, there we go. It's about how history has gone and it continues. It does continue. Does it remind you of anything? Justin Trudeau locked us all in our house for 2.5 years while he called us degenerates, deplorables, dirty, unvaxxed people. He singled us out of being able to go on airlines. He didn't allow us to go to work or have jobs because we put that star patch on our jackets as we walked around as the unvaxxed. You remember his lovely speech when he was campaigning that you don't want to get on a train or a plane with those people? And then when people come and say, I can't afford my bills, I'm depressed, there's no resources for me to get mental health, what did the government say? Well, just step into this little booth and we'll end your existence with medical assistance in death. Sounds a lot like what they were clapping for on last week, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Justin Trudeau, the NDP, and many others labeled us all dirty, unvaxxed, unacceptable, deplorable people. They jailed protesters and stomped on them with horses. They stifled free speech. They stopped you from getting out of your country. They arrested people for having guests in their home. They imposed curfews and lockdowns. All while Trudeau campaigned on, you don't want to be near those dirty people. And if they're having a hard time, we'll help them die. I mean, walks like a duck and talks like a duck, ladies and gentlemen. Anthony did his job here. He wanted to show history and how it continues, he says. Well, I guess he did a really good job of that, as they all applauded this SS soldier.
My sincere apologies to the House, to each and every one of you who are in the House today.
Not accepted.
And to all Canadians for having been put through this.
Not accepted.
It being 11:35, the House will now proceed to the consideration of private members' business listed on today's order paper. Orders of the day.
Private members' business, resuming debate at second reading of Bill C.
And this was around where the stream started, and they stopped discussing that. Now, again, I do want to go to Jagmeet Singh's letter here, because, of course, he's not in the House talking about it today. But he's got the time to come out and virtue signal and, make his statement because, he's been caught red-handed. I share the concerns about the individual honored at a standing ovation in the House of Commons on Friday. He was not a guest of the NDP. Okay, so it wasn't us, guys, just like the Liberals. Let's not publicize this. It wasn't us. He was not a guest of the NDP, and we were not aware of his background or association with the regime in World War II. This event has caused harm to the Jewish community, and for that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. Wasn't that a South Park episode? Sorry. We're sorry. Sorry. Anyways, New Democrats will be raising our concerns about how this was allowed to happen with the government directly. We must all stand together against the rising tide of anti-Semitism. And I said, you stood for a Nazi, you clown. You. We don't need to do anything but accept your resignation. Absolutely disgusting what you've all done. I mean, do you want to know how you stand against anti-Semitism? You don't invite an SS soldier and honor them as a hero in the House of Commons. Flippin' moron. You idiot. Guys, I appreciate everybody sitting here for the last 90 minutes as we put this government on display and public display. And I can't fathom how we got to this point. Like, again, when I brought out how the Prime Minister stole freedom, it was a poke at Trudeau's gaffes to embarrass him for what he had done to this country and what and kind of have everybody laugh at his expense. But this is completely unacceptable. After more scandals than I can count on two hands, woke nonstop politics, labeling of citizens, locking people in their homes, running up deficits, raising inflation to record levels, and now this. And we're supposed to, as Karen said in the House there, we don't want to publicize it, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to talk about it. This, and again, I will never sit on my channel and say, get your torches and pitchforks, cause harm. But this is deserving of an uprising, a revolution. The time to sit and complain about this stuff is over. We need action. We need something. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I'm going to go back to this really quick. Let's go back to this. Here's Karen Gould. There it is. Oh, we didn't know. We didn't know. Let's not publicize this. Her hand on this guy's shoulder, holding his hand with Anthony right there. Disgusting. Disgusting. Now, again, I'm going to share this tweet because Marty up north put this out. We should have this tweet go viral. Copy and paste this status, just like the Trudeau must go. Now, of course, Theo Fleury put one out. Marty put one out, so I've done the same. Hi, my name is Derek. As a Canadian citizen, I'm disgusted that our Prime Minister would give a standing ovation to a Nazi. Please join me in demanding that Trudeau resign. Hashtag Trudeau must go. Hashtag Trudeau resign. I'd even throw the hashtag Trudeau loves Nazis in there. Canadians need an apology from all 338 MPs. And I can't agree more. I think, folks, if you're on social media, if you're on Twitter, get that tweet out. Not mine. Let's make it spread like wildfire. Let's show in some way, shape, or form as we write our MPs, as we call for their resignation, as we demand change. Let's make our public outcry here by flooding the interwebs with any opportunity to out these 338 individuals for what they've done. Because again, in my mind, they're all pigs at a trough at this point. They're lining their pockets. They don't care about people like me and you. They don't care about fixing this country. They just honored one of the most despicable human beings in existence. And we're supposed to just say, oh, they're sorry. They're sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Unacceptable. I'm going to go take a Valium because it's enraging. It's hard to watch and it's hard to sit here, but I wanted to go live. I wanted to share this with you guys and I wanted to make sure that we get it out. Like, share. If this is your first time to the channel, subscribe. We're growing our small fringe minority here on the channel into what appears to be a fringe majority. I'd love to hit 10,000 subs by the end of October. We're well on our way, ladies and gentlemen, so join our small fringe minority. This video was obviously demonetized by YouTube because we're talking about Nazis again, and I keep saying this in my video, that the hard part about covering this stuff is that you're censored as soon as you start mentioning those things. So if you're in a position to become a member, if you want to help the channel, we are doing a draw. So again, I'm not going to say become a member and get nothing. We're doing a draw October 22nd on my live stream for my newest book, The Young Kid's Guide to Grooming. This is the first printed copy that I have signed, and I'll be raffling it off to one lucky member. You must be a member at the time of drawing, but it's a way of giving back for the support of the channel. I appreciate everybody who keeps us alive, who keeps the lights on, and I appreciate you guys for coming out here and watching this stream. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the House of Commons as it's fully assembled and we see what people are saying. We see what comes out, and I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to give an inch. I hope you guys are doing the same. Spawny420 coming in with a 420 super chat. Thank you so much. If you're looking for a sit-down Star Wars game, I'm not. Or if you're talking the original arcade and you're in Calgary, yeah, I'd like to move this stand-up into a sit-down. Yeah, hit me up. Hit me up in the comments if that's what you've got. Man. It's, yeah, they do. Bernadette's got it. They want to hide this video. They do want to hide the video. So I appreciate everybody who's been here, everybody who bought a membership this morning, everybody who supported the channel. Being here is support enough. I'm not requesting your money. Share the video out, get it out on social media, tell people to come and watch it. Views matters. So any help, guys, leaving a thumbs up, a comment, it's all very helpful to the channel. Again, I appreciate everybody. Spawny saying OG Arcade. Spawny, hit me up on email. Unacceptablefringeyt@gmail.com, and I'll see what you got if you're in the Calgary area. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you all coming out to the stream. I appreciate Spawny for dropping that. in the chat as well, and all your guys' support. I hope you guys have a better rest of your week. I hope that we push and we do not let up on the government for this. You guys take it easy. Please enjoy our content as it's going to be rolling out throughout the week. Stay safe, everybody. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.